Welcome to another edition of the Fearless Football Forecast. I'm Ronnie Woodward, and Jim Gentry joins me. Jim, we have a two-man crew. Going back to it again. Yeah. We have 6 games, though, so are you ready to do this?
Let's go.
All right.
Let's fire through these.
Nice. Yeah, there's a good slate of Eastern Carolina Conference games, 4A, 3A games. So I'll start off. First one, D.H. Conley is 5-2, got a conference win last week. They head to CB Aycock, which is 4-4. Like I said, a lot of matchups here with some teams with some pretty good records, or at least even records, and should be a close one. I think Conley probably has a little bit of an edge. Aycock is 1-2 in the conference, but we talk about it each week. You have New Bern, you have Rose, you have Conley, you have Eastern Wayne. I mean, all these games at this point start to matter, and you start to determine kind of an order and who's going to finish where. I think Conley's right in the mix, for first, second, or third, really, or fourth, and Aycock's kind of on the bottom end and trying to work its way back up. So Conley did a lot of good things last week, running the ball. A bunch of guys got involved. Deuce Fuller's kind of emerged as a running threat at quarterback, and they have to go on the road now and do the same type of thing. I think this is probably a close game. I'll go ahead and pick this one. I'm going to take the Vikings. I say close, but I'd say Conley by maybe a few touchdowns, maybe 2 or 3. But I think a better test than last week. They won 51-0 against a Southern Wayne team that's really, really struggling. I think this is kind of the next level up. I'll take the Vikings, though. I think they go get a win. What about you?
I'm going to take the Vikings as well. I saw Aycock play last week against Rose.
That's
Rose
right.
Probably didn't play their best. Coach Wachecki will tell you that in a heartbeat. But they still cruised to the victory. I think it says a lot. Aycock's got a great quarterback. Morrow's his name. Really fast and just keeps plays alive for a while because he can really move with the football. So he's an interesting test for a defense to stop. And then later in the game, they'll line him up a wide receiver. You just don't know what they're going to do with him. He's just a great tool to use on offense. But I just think Conley's going to have too much.
Yeah.
I see them coming back with a similar win that Rose did against Aycock and getting a big victory.
Okay, sounds good. Speaking of Rose, you'll take the next game here. They're undefeated, going to Eastern Wayne. I think a team that I don't know if we've seen yet, but we're intrigued. I think they're a pretty good team too. They're 5-1.
And, that was the first chance I've had to see Rose play this past week. And holy cow, they got a ton of weapons. It's unbelievable the amount of weapons Rose has on offense. And they're having some issues clicking on offense. Weren't real sharp last week, and the fact that they still could roll, I think, says a lot about how good they are.
Yeah.
Eastern Wayne, obviously, I mean, we've talked about them every week, it seems like, and they just seem like one of those opponents we're just waiting to see, because that's going to be one of those big, tests for our schools, and then of course Rose having to go there makes things even more interesting. So, I think this will be a really interesting matchup, and kind of a real measuring stick kind of game where Rose is at.
I agree. Yeah. What about your prediction in that one?
I'm going to take Rose right now. I think they score so much.
Yeah.
I think it's just it's going to be really tough to beat them, and they look pretty good defensively the other day too. They did a lot of bending but not breaking on defense. I thought that was pretty impressive. Where you thought maybe they'd give up a couple touchdowns, but came up with some big stops. So I think they're going to have a little too much to handle even on the road. I think Rose comes up with another one of those 40, 50-point outputs. Okay.
All right, I'm going to take Rose as well. You mentioned the measuring stick type of game, and New Bern beat Eastern Wayne 26-3 last week. So I'm interested to see what does Rose do to Eastern Wayne. Can you start playing the game of how good is Rose compared to New Bern, and all that good stuff. But all that aside, I think Rose is obviously a better team. I agree with you. Too much, I think, to stop on offense. I think Eastern Wayne has a good defense, and they can hang in for a little bit. So I think this is probably a good game for the Rampants to go see what they can do. But I'll take Rose to win that one. Sticking with that league, we talk about it. I mean, it's a good league, and South Central is probably a good example. They're next here. They're 4-3, but still winless in the conference. They've had a rough stretch. They traveled to Southern Wayne, a team that Conley beat by 50 points, or 51 actually to be exact, last week. Southern Wayne is 1-6, so as weird as it sounds, this is kind of the last place game in this conference, at least right now. They're both at the bottom. They're both looking to work their way up. I think South Central obviously is in a better position. You look at overall the big picture, better athletes, probably better talent, but you got to go on the road. We've talked about the Falcons that haven't played great on the road. They've been better at home and gotten some of those close wins. So this is a game that I think we've said they need to go win. I mean, when you're a team like South Central or Conley or Rose, when you play Southern Wayne, that you need to win that game, because as South Central's found out the last few weeks, there might not be a ton of wins in that league when you talk about the top teams. So a big game for South Central when you look at their future and how they want to finish this season. I think they need to go take care of business. And speaking of, I think they're going to do it. I think the Falcons get that first league win. I think they have to go win and play well probably. But I think they're too much talent for Southern Wayne. I think they go win. What about you?
Well, this is a huge stretch for South Central too. They're at that 4-win mark, and you want to get that up to the 7-8 win mark as far as seedings and stuff going when it comes time to pick the playoff brackets. Here's the thing: South Central's played Eastern Wayne, New Bern, and Rose.
Yeah.
I mean, that's three of the real killers in the conference.
Yeah.
And they still have a date with Conley at the end of the season. So
Yep.
they got a couple games here in the middle there. These are the ones that are winnable.
Yeah.
They got this game with Southern Wayne. I think they're going to win in this one big. I don't know if I gave you my pick, but
Yeah.
Conley big.
You got it.
South Central big in this one. And then I think they'll beat CB Aycock as well down the road.
Yeah.
These are winnable games. It's got to do it, you know. And being on the road's tough. So
Yeah.
I mean, this is huge. But there's a chance, they win this game. They're 5-3 team.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great way to bounce back from a three-game losing streak. But
I agree.
I think Falcons win this one pretty easy.
Okay. Another thing to add, too, I meant to say this. They've lost to Rhodes and New Bern, those teams, but they haven't been huge but blowouts. I mean, they've had their moments and hung with. It's just tough to beat those teams for 4 quarters and put it all together.
And 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
exactly.
They've had their moments. I think this week they put it together at least, one night and get a win. Next game here, I think this one goes back to you. South Lenore is at Aiden Griffin. Talk about a weird league. Aiden Griffin was struggling. They're 1-0 now and kind of leading that conference, it looks like.
Yeah, but they seem like they do that every year. They get in the conference and all of a sudden, they kind of right the ship.
Yep.
And we kind of saw that last week. And South Lenore, on the other hand, is really struggling right now. Has lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Instead of 2 and 5. So, and they're 0-1 in the conference. They lose this game, and suddenly you're scrambling. You're out of the picture as far as conference championship. But it's one of those games too. With Chargers playing at home, you really need to win this game.
Yep.
You're battling a team that's got a losing record. You got to build off that momentum. They went on that incredible win streak at the end of last season.
They did.
But they can put something together like this now and go into the playoffs really hot. This is where you start building that momentum.
Yeah, they need to keep scoring points. They did that last week. And
just being consistent on offense.
Exactly.
They just haven't had that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going to pick the Chargers?
Oh, yeah. I think you got to pick the Chargers in this one. Just right now with the momentum they have, and they play so well when they're in conference play. It's just hard to pick against them.
All right, I agree. At home especially, I think they have a couple of big games coming up, Goldsboro and Kinston. Yeah. I think this week, though, they take care of business. I'll take Aiden Griffin at home as well. Next game, a team that I saw last week, Farmville Central is 6-1, lost a heartbreaker to Washington by 1 point. Luckily, they get North Johnson this week, which is 1-6 and really, really struggling. So you talk about going from what I think is a really, really good Washington team to a team that's really struggling and kind of the both ends of the spectrum there. So I think the Jaguars are obviously in a good position. After Washington, maybe you're beat up physically and even mentally. Such a tough thing to bounce back from. This is a perfect opponent to do it. Hate to rag on North Johnson and pile on, but they're just not doing much. Yeah, I mean, you look at the two offense. North Johnson is not scoring many points. Farmville is, even though last week was kind of a hiccup. Obviously, prior to that, they were scoring 40 and 50 every week. So I think, pretty plain and simple, I'll take the Jaguars at home. I think they bounce back in a major way, kind of get that thing rolling again. And, not to keep going on last week, but I think that was a really, really good game. It was 13-12. Could have gone either way. Farmville was winning right there until the very end. So I think Farmville's still in good shape as long as they can relax and just put it behind them and move on. I think they do that this week and get a big win.
Let me ask you this. If Farmville and Washington were to play again this Friday, who would you pick in that game?
I don't know. I would maybe pick Farmville again,
I
think it's a
real toss-up. It comes down to one huge play in the final minute of the game.
Exactly.
One play slips through, and that's a good sign of two good teams. Well, I tell you, the difference is one play.
Yep.
One play was the difference between Farmville being 7-0. But I agree with you here. I think Farmville is going to kind of lick their wounds this Friday night and get a pretty big victory.
Yeah.
This is a tough task for North Johnson to have to go into Farmville Central and try to beat this team, who's probably going to be a little angry coming into Friday night.
I agree. They did suffer some injuries last Friday, but still, they were pretty minor things. I think those guys will be back and be fine. Last game, the 6-1 here. I know this has been a long haul, but Jim, you take this one. Beddingfield is traveling to North Pitt. another, as we said, key conference game to try to get teams on track.
Yeah, North Pitt had won a couple games in a row. It looked like they were starting to right the ship. Got off to a pretty good start in that game against Southwest Edgecombe last week, and then the wheels kind of came off in the second half, which can happen when you're on the road. Bedingfield's one of those teams that are sitting at 4-3. You know, that's one of those things where you're really trying to find your identity.
I agree.
And this is the meat of the season. This is when you get a chance to do it. Huge game at home for North Pitt. Don't want to fall 0-2 in this conference of all conferences. This is a pretty tough one too. So I mean, this is there's a lot riding on this. You know, I think the key is going to be just getting that consistent offensive production for North Pitt. You just never know what the offensive output's going to be
from
week to week.
Yes,
and you know they had a real solid game against Green Central. Went on the road to Northside and really had a huge win there.
Yeah.
You know, and then this past week scored 21 points, but then just gave up a ton. So, but you know, this is one of those games that's almost a must-win here. You know, you don't want to fall down to 2-6. And, you know, with a handful of games left.
Yeah, I agree. All right, who are you going to pick in that one?
I'm going to take North Pitt to get the upset. I guess it would be an upset.
Yeah, a mild upset.
Yeah, but I think they right their ship. I've seen them play really well. You know, against Green Central, they were all so all their defensive assignments were straight, and you know they clicked on offense. So I think they're going to come back home and really play well. They've been on the road the last 2 weeks, a couple long road trips. So I think they're ready to play back at home.
Okay, I like that pick actually. You're kind of convincing me there. I was pretty set on Bedingfield, but I think I'm gonna stick with them. I think Bedingfield it has a 4-3 record. I think they're probably just a little better team. You know, you mentioned North Pitt still inconsistent. I think Bedingfield has been more consistent here the last few weeks. I think they're 2-1 their last 3 games.
I think you got to favor them in that game, but I think it would be an upset. But still, as you know, it's one of those games though you could see easily going either way.
Yeah, I was about to say I think it could go either way for sure. And North Pitt is at home, but I'll take Bedingfield to win a close one. So that's what I'm going with. At least we differed on one.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously 6 games again. We're getting into the meat of the conference schedule here and getting close to the end. But go see a game, and we'll see you back next week.